Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, as always, I'm outside at the moment in nature, one of my most favourite places with Barney. So, we're having a good walk. Anyway, let's get on with today's creation. I'm using two small canvases, and this is going to be what I would call a double diptych puddle pour. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you don't. So, I'm really pleased that you're here with me. I can't wait to show you what I'm going to do. And one thing that I do want to point out is I do a pour and then I do something to reverse that in a minute. But let me show you the process. It's lots of fun. Let's see what we can create. So today I'm using two smaller canvases because I want to do a diptych and I want to do it in a different way. Let me explain more as we go. But before I do that, let me show you the colours that I'm using. And this is the colour palette that I've put together. So we've got a range of brands and a range of colours ranging from the Daler Rowney's Prussian Blue, Amsterdam's Light Gold and Copper. And then we've got Artesa's Pearl, Purple, Amsterdam's Lilac and Metallic Green. And then Pebio's Silver. So, and also, let's not forget the blue turquoise as well. So that's my colour palette, and I would just like to say I'm only using a paint and water combination. So I'm using 1 part paint to 1 part water, and that's the same with all of these colours and brands that I'm using today. So you'll see that the paint just drips off of the spatula and just disappears. So my canvases are ready, they're on their stands and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to initially start off puddling the paints on top of the canvas, one colour at a time. And then I'm going to use my blow dryer to blow the paints out. And then I'm going to reverse those colours. So whatever colours you see on the left hand side will be puddled on the right hand side and vice versa. But you'll see more of this as we go, and I obviously know how this turns out and I really can't wait for you to see it too, because this is definitely going to be a wow piece, because we can also create some cells as we go. And that's because we're using different densities of paint, and it's that gold there that you can see now, the iridescent gold by Pebio, that really helps those cells pop and come alive. So I'm going to leave you now so you can see how I'm puddling the paints on the canvas, and I'll be back shortly to describe how we can reverse those colours to continue with the process. So let's start blowing this out, but initially let's just pop those air bubbles with this torch. And that's what this is to do initially. So I've popped the air bubbles, and now I'm going to blow the paint out across the canvases to cover that full surface area. The hairdryer that I'm using is on a cool setting and the lowest blow speed. And that's the same with all of my blowouts when I'm using the hairdryer. So there we go, you can see I've already blown out the first canvas. It's just about spreading that paint out to cover the full surface area, and also to push that paint down the sides. And where I've got a little bit of exposure of canvas still, I just add a little bit more colour just on that edge, and then I use my blow dryer just to expand that colour and push it over that corner. And then I'm going to move on to the tile on the left. These are canvases, sorry, I shouldn't say tile. These are just small canvases. Again, just blowing the paint out with the hairdryer to cover the full surface area. So I've now realistically got my canvases covered with the colours that I chose. And now it's about reversing those. And by doing that, I'm going to pour the paint that I used for the left-hand side onto the right-hand side canvas and vice versa. So the paint we've already blown out is almost the base coat. Let's call it the base coat. All those colours all in one. And then I'm literally puddling the paints on top that I used on the alternate canvases. Because guys, this is going to have a great reaction. It's going to give it some depth and it's also going to create some cells. And I can't wait for you to see this finished version. So please stick with me as we go. So those alternate colours are now puddled, and let's now just take the blow dryer and blow the canvas paint into the corners and just slightly out from the middle. And we'll see real depth to this one. And I'm going to ask you in a minute, once you've seen both of them, to choose which one you prefer. Of course, they might dry a little bit different. Whenever I use a Prussian blue, something that I have to bear in mind is it will dry darker. But I actually love how this one dries. So I'll let you know my favourite maybe in the comments. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to lead you to make it the same decision as myself. But let me know in the comments, guys, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the canvas on your left or the one on your right? Okay, let me take you in for a closer look at these wet versions. I love that one. I think I love the bit where the copper and the gold meet. But then I can almost see a reindeer in the middle of this one if you turn it round. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm not going to tell you which one's my favourite. I want you to tell me which one is your favourite. And if you want to wait for the dry version until you make your decision, then that's totally fine. But I'm going to let these dry and then I'll take you in for a close-up of the dry version. Okay, are you ready to see the dry version? Here we go, the dry version of each one. That lilac, that purple and that Prussian blue have dried darker as expected. As I said before, remember when you're pulling together a colour palette, think about the way the paint may dry. So the paints do look sometimes completely different when wet, but it's only when they're dry they show their true colour. But I don't know, I definitely see a reindeer in this one. If I tilt it slightly, I can see the antlers in the middle with an animal. But then I really like the one on the right hand side because you can really see that contrast between those purple and lilac with that copper and gold. I don't know, what one's your favourite? I think, well, I'll let you be the decider. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate all of you and I hope I get to see you again in the next video. Take care everyone. Bye.